coming through school, I decided when I was 18 to go to Edinburgh University to study music. The reason for that was that the composer Kenneth Layton was on the staff, and I was a great admirer of Kenneth Layton's music. He's regarded as a conservative composer nowadays, I suppose, but he was a great craftsman and a very, very fine man, a great encourager of young composers. I suppose that in many ways he came in that tradition influenced by Benjamin Britten and other British composers, and his church music and his organ music was, I find, especially moving and stunning, that had a big impact on me. After undergraduate work, I moved to the University of Durham to do my postgraduate study, and that was with the English composer John Caskin. Well, there are different ways of studying music, and there are, of course, differences between the conservatoire approach and the university approach. But that's not to say that conservatory-trained composers don't get access to the deep thinking that is required to be a composer, I think. I've met many fine composers in conservatories that think for themselves and make the study, and that there is a wider study available to them in conservatories. Conservatory education is changing, just as in the same way that university education is changing. But for me, in the late 1970s, the university environment was a vital one, and I needed a broad-based musical experience, and certainly a lot of experience that allowed me to think and study earlier music, and to study the work of my colleagues, living and dead. I think every composer who studies seriously at undergraduate level and then goes on to master level or doctorate level at university eventually has to come to the conclusion that he has a life to live outside of academia, and that certain paths have to be found which enables him to find his feet as a composer, but also to make a living, to survive. And I continued my PhD work at Durham on a part-time basis, did 2 years there, took a little job in a prep school teaching music on a part-time basis, got married, tried to divide my time between teaching and writing. Went back to university as a teacher. Went to Manchester University to teach for 2 or 3 years. But also, again, trying to find time to write. And that's a balancing act that many composers in conservatories and universities always find, you know, because there's a lot of responsibility being a teacher at any level, in schools and in universities and conservatories. When does one find time to compose? Everyone finds his own way, her own way to work that out. But I think any composer nowadays will need to find some balance with other activities, whether it's teaching in universities or in schools, or as a performer. And that's the balance I've got to make now, because I conduct so much, and because I love conducting so much. I've got to find the balance between the very necessary solitude of composing and getting out there and working with my fellow musicians.